Is the RV market currently primed? Like, is this a good time to buy? What are we going to see this summer with things like gas prices? What's going on with interest rates? What's the general health? What the heck is going on in the RV industry? Well, my name's Josh the RV Nerd, and I'm no expert, but this is our monthly-ish industry update where I'm going to do my best to try to peel through the onion layer by layer. I literally just choked on thin air with one of my coworkers behind me rightfully laughing at me. But these are the questions that we're going to try to answer today in my silly little format. As we go, do me a favor, leave me all kinds of comments. Let me know what you think about all the different topics that we're going to touch on here today. But first and foremost, I actually want to kick things off with a double shot of consumer protection, making you aware of not one, but two scams that are actually kind of starting to creep out there right now and try to put you in a position where you can avoid getting took. So if you appreciate how we try to get you this information out there to proactively arm you to avoid situations like this and just keep you informed in general, hit that little subscribe button, like our video, leave me a note that says, "Thanks, nerd." Anyway, what's going on here, I'm going to call the first one the distract and attack, where, you know, you're a private seller. You put your RV up for sale on, I don't know, we'll just say Facebook Marketplace. This has nothing to do with them. It's just a popular outlet. You're primarily dealing with someone digitally, sight unseen. You send them some photos, whatever, and everything seems great. They show up the day of to take possession of it and want to do a final once-over inspection. And some way or another, they get out of your line of sight to go inspect the RV, whether they have one person talk to you and the other breaks away, or whatever the case is. Then they show up a few minutes later with either something like a little chunk of water damaged, moldy OSB, or like chalky sealant residue, and they say, you know, either the RV's got water damage and we're gonna have to replace that slide floor, or I checked your roof seals and they're all, you know, baked and we're gonna have to totally pay to reseal this thing. So we'd still buy the RV if you sell it for less money. You know, that's what the whole thing is really going for, is basically essentially tricking you into thinking something's wrong and you should have to sell it to them for less. The real con man tactic, they lean on you know, they took the day off work, they drove all the way here, etc. You owe them this in some fashion or another, and they put pressure on you. There's various forms of this, but it seems like lately we've had some consignment sale events where we've had people say that they were trying to sell it privately and they got such a bad taste in their mouth trying to do that they'd like us to kind of shield them from that through our consignment programs. And some of these stories have been kind of creeping up out there. So I guess one of the big questions is, you know, what can you do to avoid being the victim in that situation? Well, first of all, remember, you as a seller always have the power to say no thank you. Or if you're buying an RV, don't ever let somebody pressure you into buying an RV you don't know that you necessarily want, but also don't let somebody pressure you into agreeing to the sale of your RV that you don't necessarily want to agree to. You can always relist it, sell it to somebody else later. You know, I've always been a big proponent of having an RV inspected before you buy it. It makes me question, is there validity in having an RV inspected before you sell it? Now, the thing is, when that comes at a couple $100 a pop and doesn't necessarily guarantee you to increase your selling price, that doesn't exactly sound like the best sort of answer there. I think something very obvious is don't let somebody out of your sight. You should be with them while you inspect it. That is a lesson that we as a dealership group have actually learned to avoid getting kind of taken by the pencil whippers out there. So there's some excellent RV inspectors. I've been a very loud, outspoken proponent of having RVs inspected, but initially when we first said, yeah, you know what, anybody just send your inspector in, we had a couple cases where this inspector came up with 8 or 9 pages of defects that when you actually went to look at the RV just weren't there. They were just pencil whipping something to justify the $700-800 that they were getting paid, and then moving on and making the buyer feel like, wow, I sure saved you a lot of trouble right there. It's a good thing you didn't buy that RV. You should recommend me to your friends, by the way, so I can charge them $800-900 a pop. So we actually make sure we have a tech with them, which there's other benefits to that, because if there is a problem, now we've got a guy right there who can actually take care of it. But if you're a private seller, it's your property. I don't know that I'd necessarily let somebody out of my sight until they own it. There's a phrase there I call cash in the pocket before you unlock it. Now, obviously, they got to take a look at it, but it's not their free reign property until you allow it to be, you know? The other thing here that can kind of help is obviously, okay, show me where you found that. Can you show me that? And if they can't reproduce the result, then you obviously know it's bunk. Another thing that's potentially really important, even as a private seller, in theory, you should have a written bill of sale signed by both parties. And on that, it's very powerful to have the written phrase, as is, where is. Because once everybody agrees to it, money changes hands, it's theirs in its existing current condition, and they have legally agreed upon that. So those are things that you can do to help avoid yourself being in that situation. Another thing that's happening is not just RVers, but travelers in general. And it comes in the form of something called smishing, which is kind of a combination of SMS texting and phishing scam attempts. What's essentially happening is people are receiving texts from a party claiming to be like the toll road service, saying, you didn't pay your tolls, you have past bill tolls. Click on this link right now and you can pay them online to avoid any additional penalties. Well, a couple things here is tolling services do not collect payment via text. And what has kind of exposed this a little bit is these scam attempts seem to have gone out to pseudo-random numbers in a somewhat related geographical area. Some people who are like, I don't drive on toll roads, what is this crap? And some of these reports have made it to the internet crime complaint center thing with the FBI. If you get something like this, again, anytime you get a text telling you need to pay somebody money from a number you don't recognize, first of all, call the actual company or check your account on their website if that applies or something like that. Call the actual customer care number for that company. Don't pay money just via text blindly, ever. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe you're wasting your time saying that. Well, some people need to hear this. You might be surprised. The other thing is you can actually file a complaint at the FBI's internet crime website. Make sure you include things like the phone number and the website it was trying to direct you to and all that, to hopefully prevent that activity from continuing with anyone else in the future. So moving on to, I guess we'll call it the market analysis chunk of the video. By the way, last month I asked the question, would you like me to break these industry update videos into different chunks? And a lot of people said yes. Some people said one video is fine. But moving forward, I probably am going to try to do something like on the first of the month, every month, I'm going to maybe do, an industry market update, whereas maybe say like the 15th of the month, do something like an industry news update. That is long-term the format that I'm going toward. Right now, I am absolutely strapped recording like crazy all the new stuff coming out from manufacturers because the 2025 models are on their way and I've been granted a lot of early looks at this stuff. I already have about 6 weeks worth of 2025 footage in the bank coming up. I still have to go back through and edit, and this is the time of year I work an extreme number of hours per week, but I still wanted to at least once a month put these industry things out there. Now, as my bandwidth kind of eases up, I may try to do kind of a 2 a month sort of thing and go from there, and we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, what is the current health of the RV industry? Well, like I said, the 25 model production, some companies are literally only building 25s right now, and they are just stockpiling their shipping yards to the point that they're overflowing to catch that initial wave of orders to dealers so they can get those out there and fulfill those real quick. Some companies are still building 24 models, but they're prototyping their 25 releases, expecting you'll see more of that at the end of July through August, and pretty much by September, all of that stuff will be out there. We're going to talk more about model change consistency coming up soon. But through this, RVIA, the kind of governing body of the RV industry, is projecting that total shipments this year will climb compared to last year. Now, a lot of their initial estimates, some of which were almost 410,000 RVs shipped through the year, those were heavily based upon the initial idea that, like back in March, that we were going to see 2 to 3 at least interest rate drops through the year. Well, that's not exactly happening. More on that in a little bit. RVI has since scaled their projections back. Now we're roughly predicting anywhere from 330 to 360 RVs get shipped through the year under, I guess, current conditions, and what they're calling cautious optimism. Now, sales versus last year are down, what is it, like somewhere around 10%, 17%, depends on which segment, it varies a little bit, but overall they are down a little bit, which has led some people to question, are we running into kind of, I think it's sort of called like a Tesla effect, where there's a lot of these things built, but maybe not a lot of them getting sold off of dealerships. Right now, it seems to be kind of a pretty even flow of input-output. This time of year, dealers will tend to bulk up on stock a little bit to sell through the summer, and then it'll dwindle a little bit coming into the fall, and then it will bulk up again through the end of winter coming into spring for show season. So there's always a little bit of a cyclical effect here, where there's always sometimes a little bit of a disproportionate build versus sale. And sometimes sale versus build or whatever. Obviously, though, until the smoke clears, no one's really going to know for sure. I don't know. What do you guys kind of think? Like, I don't know, are the total industry shipments through the year? And remember, shipments and sales not always the same thing. But do you think that RVIA is, being a little more realistic now, or do you think they're still aiming a little bit high with that, 330 to 360,000 shipment a year estimate? But related to RVIA and model years, last year or two, RVIA kind of put a thing out there where RV manufacturers, they kept leapfrogging one another to try to release the new model stuff sooner than everybody else. And it got to be silly. It got to really be a problem for consumers, dealers, suppliers, everybody. It was a nightmare. It's still one of the things that lingers and causes a lot of service problems through the industry, even if something's out of warranty. Like if you tell me you have a 2018, if it's an early to mid to late season 2018, it might be 2 or 3 different colors of trim or furniture used in your RV. So to try to pinpoint that for replacements can be really difficult. Well, currently, RVIA really suggests to RV manufacturers from July 1st to August 31st is when you should implement your big bulk changes. And mostly that's being followed. They are wanting to kind of tighten that a little bit further, and starting with the 2025 or 26 model release, so not the stuff that's about to come out, but next year's updates, hopefully will become a lot simpler. RVIA is putting in the manufacturer's suggestion of basically broadcasting out and landing their updated stuff from June 1st to June 30th, which is a little bit sooner and a little tighter window. And the idea here is to make it easier for dealers to manage their inventory, easier for lenders to create bank guidelines, because like when we submit something to a lender for you for financing, we have to basically outline everything that's included on it. And again, when you have 2 or 3 versions of a single model year going to a bank, it makes it hard for them to know what the correct value is to allow you on your loan. It makes trade-in values much easier. It makes it so much easier for you to shop RVs. It's not even funny, because you don't have to go through the 10-minute explanation I just offered of early, middle, late season stuff. And really, I barely gave you the Cliff Notes version of it. The thing is, it's all technically still voluntary. There's no penalty if you don't follow suit. And there's always at least one manufacturer who's having a little bit of a rough year that wants to jump the gun to get ahead of everybody else, that'll trigger everybody else to follow suit because there's money on the line. And until there's something more solid and bitey in place, I don't think we'll actually ever see a true hard model year guideline. But hopefully next year is a step in the right direction to getting some consistency to it. On to the topic of, is now a good time to buy an RV? Well, I'm finding some very interesting conflicting reports, and I think it's just because there's a lot of factors out there. But I've found a couple parties who I feel are looking at too narrow of a data set and just saying either hard yes or hard no. So what I want to do is kind of go through the best I can, share everything I found with you, and let you decide if it's yes or no. I don't believe in, again, taking the stance of an authority. I just want to share with you what I find, and if you appreciate that kind of approach to things, hit that subscribe button. Anyway, so let's take a look at the used market real quick here, because what's interesting is used values and volumes are both climbing. If you look at both towable and motorized, I'll throw some charts and stats on the screen here for you. There's a really interesting thing here, and what I'm kind of, for the 3rd month in a row, both towable and motorized values in the used RV market have risen. And what I'm kind of attributing to that is several factors, like we're seeing higher volume. So what I'm seeing there, I interpret that as kind of a wave of ordered RVs coming in off the end of RV show season, now landing, the sales are completing, and we have a bulk of used RVs suddenly available right now over the last couple months. Dealers in early show season tend to spend a lot of times selling off the stuff that they had built up in stock. But as certain popular models get sold off, people order replacements. And some people don't want to buy right away early in spring because they don't want to store an RV for 3 or 4 months before they get a chance to use it. So a lot of people pull the trigger right before the season opens up, and it tends to throw a lot of either trades or used or something into the market very quickly. We're also seeing where a lot of dealer used volume, on-hand dealer stock is a little bit low right now. So dealers are willing to pay a little more on a used RV just to get something, like on trade, offer more in your trade value to get it on the lot. Or they are, they might have an old piece of inventory still in stock, like maybe even a late old 22, or maybe still a couple 23s. And if you're looking to buy an aged unit like that, the dealer's very, very excited to get rid of it. And sometimes that means that they'll go a little deeper on your trade value, just as any incentive to get that old piece of inventory off the lot. Because they'll take a new money problem over an old money problem because they feel they now have time to work through that new money problem, if that makes any sense to you. Well, all this is kind of resulting in, right now, we're seeing more used available, but at more dollars, as we have this beautiful sunshine. Once the season kicks in, pricing in the RV industry very often follows the weather patterns of the RV industry. And with, pretty much every state of the union now in full-on camping swinging season, kids are out of school, more people are camping right now. Supply demand, basics right there. It raises, usually though, as volume decreases, cost increases. Right now they're both going up a little bit, but that's because they had both gone down a little bit before that. It's just a weird thing that we're seeing currently. And this is where I say it gets really interesting and contrasting, because higher value doesn't sound like a good time to buy an RV, but if you read a lot of analysts, they're saying this is just absolutely the best time to really take advantage of the opportunities out there in the RV industry, again, specifically in the used market, targeting late model, barely used things. And the line of thought here, ever since the big pandemic explosion of, we'll say, pandemic toys like RVs, boats, etc., really happened, there were people immediately predicting, oh man, I'm gonna sit back and in a couple months, all these, well, some people said whether it's a couple months, a couple years, whatever the case, we're gonna sit back and tell all these come lately campers, find out that either camping's not from them, or they go back to doing other things and they don't use the RV a lot, and I'm gonna get me one at a discounted price that's barely been used. And I fully understand that logic, but the trick is that all assumed that market conditions were going to remain exactly the same, which they have not. And as a result, that big flood of super discount used RVs has really not happened. But why is that? Well, this is where I want you to be overtly aware of the fact that what I'm sharing from here forward is my personal opinion and insight from what I've seen working in the industry. Well, that flood of nearly new used RVs, it never really happened because, again, market conditions changed. As coming out of the pandemic period, when the pricing was going way, way up very, very quickly, there's been a lot of different methods, whether it's decontenting new series or manufacturers just getting margins down a little bit. Pricing of new RVs has gone down, which has put pressure on the used RV market, which has pushed used RV pricing down. And as a result, that has pushed trade-in values down, because all those things are connected to one another. They all move together. Couple that with the fact that interest rates at the same time were climbing up, and you created a situation where people who purchased a RV during the pandemic period at higher prices and lower interest rates are borderline locked into their existing RV much more than many of them would like. I've seen that from the comments section here in these videos where people said, I absolutely would love to trade out, but I can't take that trade figure the dealer offered me. And 3 or 4 dealers offered the same thing. What's going on? That's what the market is bearing right now. And if you want to roll some of your existing RV loan over into a new RV loan, the word for it's an equity, roll over an equity from one loan to the next, also at a higher interest rate, that makes it a very difficult proposition. And that has greatly slowed that expected flood of barely used RVs out there. So, is it a good time to, try to take advantage of those used RV market conditions? It really depends on what you're looking at and who you are in the equation. If you have an existing RV, it's a lot tougher. If you don't have an RV and you're looking, I would say some of the more distressed segments of the market, like, bigger fifth wheels and a lot of your motorized units, Class A and Class B specifically, where those are available, can be a good proposition just because the market is not exploding on fire in those segments, and you can kind of take advantage of that because that puts pricing pressure on the dealership to keep the pricing down where it's attractive for you. The more conventional travel trailer market, that's in pretty decent shape right now. We're both new and used. So as a result, it's more of just a question, like a grab bag of what is available to you at the time. If you find the right used trailer at the right deal, I would jump on it. But the thing is, what you can never see as a consumer buying a used RV at a dealership is like, remember how I said, if you want to buy an aged unit that an RV dealer has in stock, how they might go a little bit deeper on your trade? Well, that could mean that there's a used RV sitting in stock at a dealership that they put arguably too much money in on trade, and they're just trying to get through it right now, and they may not have the room to work on that unit like they would like to. Problem is, you can never really see that. And how do you take a salesperson's word for that? I don't buy or shop any different from you. That's like, what do you mean? I have to trust you on this? It doesn't feel right. It doesn't smell right. And I don't really know what the solution is other than trust your gut, go with what feels right. And I've always felt the best time to buy an RV is the time when you're ready and you find one that feels right to you. And the more I do this, the more I'm kind of convinced of that fact. So there are some really good pockets out there, but it's not just a absolutely throw caution to the wind and get out there and go buy something. That's not the message that I have for you. That's certainly not how I would spend my money. It's not how I'd encourage anybody. Again, if you appreciate that, even when it isn't awesome news, come buy an RV, guys, that we're sharing with you here from an RV dealership. Leave us a note. Let us know that you appreciate what we're doing for you. So let's talk about purchase influencing factors, fuel and interest rates. First of all, a little bit of sweet relief to pretty much everybody's ears is that the average cost per gallon of fuel has been slipping down over the last several weeks and looks to be potentially stabilizing there. One of the good news pieces of that is every single thing in our country, whether it's a raw material, a mid-level product, or a final finished product, eventually ships on something like a semi-truck. So lower fuel prices directly impact the final purchase price to a consumer of literally everything in our society, and I will die on that hill. But in terms of, generally filling your tank more directly, we are seeing some states with average fuel prices below $3 a gallon. Now, if you're one of the folks watching this from the mountain states or the Western time zone, you're going, what? No, because that obviously doesn't apply to you. You always seem to be paying more per gallon out there. But there are a lot of states currently right around $3 a gallon, and several expected to crack just below into the high twos per gallon for a little bit here, and that is expected to stick around for a little bit. When you got to have fuel in the vehicle to live your daily life plus everything else, that directly impacts your ability to maybe spend discretionary extra dollars on an RV. Sure. Another thing is interest rates, because those are also eating into your pocket dollars. Again, earlier this year, there was a lot of talk where, even back in, say, March, the feds were saying we're going to have, they're targeting about 3 cuts in interest rates. And then recently here, they basically said, yeah, we're probably not doing that. We might do 1, maybe 2, if we even do that, And that has, as a result, shifted a lot of RV industry projections, people's purchase lines, because when that rate affects your monthly payment on an industry, frankly, that lives on a monthly payment basis, that that's a significant wrench potentially thrown into the works there. I don't know. I'm always curious. I love the variety of answers I get. Cost per gallon of fuel, interest rates, do those affect your potential purchase and or trade decisions this summer? I couldn't have planned this any better. Basically, folks, we need your voice to help create change in the RV industry and camping trends. So, behind us over here, you see some pet camping folks. I asked, I think it was last month or the month before in this industry update video, is the RV industry doing enough to cater to pet campers? And the resounding response was no, they're definitely not. Well, I sort of dug into this because I've seen people, in my 15-year plus career camping with pets over the years, but it seems like lately it's changed. The frequency of it, the intensity of it has changed. And it turns out I wasn't crazy. Or at least if I was crazy, I wasn't wrong this time. But pre-pandemic, less than 40% of people camped with any variety of pet. Post-pandemic, that number has grown to like over 54%. Over 50. Now, the majority of people are now pet camping. And that's obviously a major shift. When you go from the minority to the majority, that changes the way things are looked at by manufacturers and how they're fulfilled. The trick is, the pandemic was really the reason that inadvertently fueled that. During the pandemic, 1 out of 5 households bought a new pet, got a new pet, adopted a new pet, something like that. So 20% of American households suddenly had 4-legged furry friend members, or maybe winged or scaled varieties, because there's some lizard and some bird camp friends out there, and you get the idea. But suddenly more and more people here are pet camping. But during that period, RV manufacturers were not equipped to change the things they were building to come up with new designs to cater to pet campers, nor did they really have good historical data on what is needed to accomplish that. That is why I want to continue to encourage you to advocate, to raise your voice to manufacturers, to share the kind of pet camping friendly features you're looking for. Feel free to leave more notes on this video just like you did the last one, because the more that we can see this coming directly from consumers, the more that they will start to pay attention and build new models that way. It's difficult for manufacturers to go back through and remanufacture existing models to include new features like that, but it doesn't mean that they can't start working around it in the future and slowly, making a little bit of a fulfillment change there. So keep that input coming. Another major shift that I'm not sure RV manufacturers are really aware of, the number of people out there that are solo camping and solo traveling. So over the past several years, the number of people who reported taking at least one day or trip solo with nobody else with them was less than 18%. That number is now over 30%. And what's interesting is, of those percentages, it is a crazy disproportionate number of male versus female solo RVers. I think it's something like over 90% of solo RVers are women. So this makes me ask the question, because I look around my lot here and I see bunkhouses and couples campers. I don't really see anything that says this is built for solo RV use. There's really not a lot of that. Sometimes in my videos, I might say my opinion is this would make a decent camper for one person, but I feel like 30% of users, that's a very significant number. Now, some of those people may camp with friends or family sometimes and then solo camp other times, and that's a trick. But I want to ask the question, is the industry missing the mark on solo RV designs? And if yes, please share your thoughts and comments here. What defines a couples camper differently from a solo use RV? Is it a difference in bed sizes and floor plans and layouts? What, like this right here, this is a couples camper. It doesn't have bunks, so we call it a couples camper. But is that the same as a solo use RV, or are there different, slightly fine-tuned features that truly would define one as the other, and what would they be? Leave me notes, let me know, so we can get that feedback back to the builders. Now, a complete shift. Is government legislation actually offering hope for RV service and or ownership? When I pose a question like that, I tend to see a couple pretty outspoken camps. And I love that you share your opinion, by the way. This is not a critique whatsoever. There are some groups that say, yes, absolutely. The way the industry has been operating for so many years, it has made its bed and deserves to have additional oversight and legislation put in place to govern this stuff, because they haven't governed it right themselves. There's also people that say, if I hear I'm from the government and I'm here to help, I feel like legislation destroys our freedoms. I fully respect both of those points, and I think it's awesome that you share that. But like it or not, one of the things that really is happening right now is a growing number of states are developing RV-specific franchising laws, or just governing laws, period. So franchising laws being one of those. But the goal behind those is to provide more consistency in the whole experience. Like, I don't know, I guess maybe you could argue, but I feel, my opinion, not a hard fact, I'll just say this is my opinion, I think that a lot of the legislation that has come through the auto industry decades and decades ago is one of the reasons that you get, I think what most people would agree, is a more consistent build experience, faster service fulfillment, and arguably better overall ownership experience on a vehicle versus a lot of RVs, especially as it comes to the service side of things. The thing is, anytime people hear more legislation, they get nervous. I get that. But as more legislation has come out creating like things like RV-specific franchising laws that still don't exist in the majority of states, more and more accountability and clarity of definition between the dealer, manufacturer, customer relationship becomes made available. Now, recently here, a bill was presented in Pennsylvania, and I think this is very interesting because it's no longer just like surface level lip service. It's actually getting into stuff that can directly affect your ownership and like warranty fulfillment experience. A bill is proposed in Pennsylvania, which, remember, it's still just a bill up on Capitol Hill. It's not yet a law. Remember Schoolhouse Rock, that's how it works. But basically, it would do things like it would allow RV dealers the ability to buy parts to fulfill a warranty job from other vendors instead of exclusively buying them from the, say, original manufacturer of the RV, which is how most relationships happen now. That's why if you've ever had a warranty situation, it took like, I'm just going to say 3 months for a microwave. You know, it sounds ridiculous because it is. Because it absolutely is. It's a stupid, ridiculous, nonsense time frame. But the thing is, if you want the manufacturer's money to pay for it, we are beholden to the manufacturer's schedule and fulfillment. Well, meanwhile, you're sitting there looking up the thing on Amazon going, I can have it here in less than 48 hours with free shipping. What's taking so long? And I agree. I don't disagree with that. I'm not criticizing you at all. I agree completely. We agree completely. And this bill in Pennsylvania would allow a dealership to basically get a fulfillment part and then send the bill back to the manufacturer and get you on the road in the meantime. I think that is actually kind of cool. It would also allow dealers to more easily secure reasonable compensation rates for warranty work, because one of the reasons that isn't often discussed that RV industry so often is just in the state that it's at, is that a lot of dealerships often lose money performing warranty work because they lose money on diag time and people processing time. They only get paid the small portion of the window in which the actual repair is being made, and there's a ton of time and work and effort that goes into making all that happen that is non-compensated time. This would make it easier for dealers to actually make it financially reasonable to perform warranty work. That's one of the reasons why if you buy an RV or a dealership won't work on an RV they didn't sell to you. That's one of the main reasons why, because they'll literally lose money and they're thinking, why should I lose money when it's not my customer? You know, a lot of dealerships perform service and warranty work because they have to, not because they want to. There's nothing in it for them. And let's be real, this is a for-profit business. If it doesn't make dollars to a lot of people, it just doesn't make sense. This legislation also has a little note preventing dealers from selling outside of their sales area if the the only dealer at a show. So what's kind of happened here is I call them the gas station super sales. You know, where it's like the empty mall parking lot, and they put up a tent, and they put up a whole ring of trailers, and some dealer you've never heard of shows up and sells a bunch of campers for the weekend, and then they pack their tents up and they're gone. And the thing is, like, you need service work, and it turns out they could literally be from a totally different state. They're not even not local. They're not even in that state. So now you're stuck high and dry with other local dealers that, as we just said, they lose money trying to fix your broken RV that somebody else sold you, so they're not going to do it. All of that sucks. All of that sucks, and this bill is working to try to course correct some of that. But I guess I still have to ask the question, do you feel overall having legislation put in place like that is a good thing, or is it a slippery slope recipe for losing, I don't know, potential rights, freedoms, things like that? Leave me a note. Let me know what you think. No real wrong answers. Just keep the language PG, because we do have kids that watch this channel and read those comments too. Another thing here that's kind of good for us all, to some degree, is that Dometic is moving their awning production back to Elkhart from Mexico. Just pre-pandemic, Dometic moved a lot of their awning production out of Indiana, which cost about 200 jobs in that area, and then the pandemic hit, and during that phase, import-export things were problematic, volumes got problematic, and they were not able to keep their supply chains fulfilled the way that anybody, themselves included, wanted to. So resuming awning production in Elkhart is awesome. It brings a couple hundred jobs back to the U.S. It simplifies supply chains. They're keeping their Mexico facility open and producing, largely to focus more on aftermarket fulfillment. But again, anything, even a small drop in the bucket toward a better, more localized build experience, more accountability, faster fulfillment, anything that moves to that direction is something I support and I definitely want people to know about. And a little segment here I like to call a tip of the hat, which I'm not wearing. But in my videos, I've always just tried to share what I think is fair. And sometimes that means recognizing where even other dealers have done good work. And I want to give a little tip of the hat to Funtown RV. They've donated $250,000 to Navarro College. That is basically, they're building a facility and starting a program teaching like certification level 1 and 2 tech training in partnership with the RV Technical Institute. Helping invest in tomorrow's technicians today, which is something that this industry desperately needs. Anything that supports, again, more technicians, more training, more skilled labor actually working on these things, that is 1000% something that deserves the tip of the cap. And although it's not directly part of the RV industry, it's close enough. And it's not every day somebody celebrates a 100th birthday. Prevost started in 1924 up in Quebec, if I'm not mistaken. And they're a little company that weathered some major adversity in the 1950s, going head-to-head against groups like the like GM and their Scenic Cruiser series to get through it and become one of today's largest companies for intercity buses and whatnot. I think they're actually owned by the Volvo Group now, but celebrating 100 years of service. Looking at where they started versus where they are today, that is quite the accomplishment. That is very cool. And that's what I got for you this month. Again, in the future, I'll try to break this up into a couple smaller, more easily digestible segments through the month. But for now, I am doing everything I can, working way beyond the normal working hours of the day to get you everything that I do put out there for you. And if you appreciate how we get you the info, again, even if it ain't all just sunshine and rainbows, hit that subscribe button, like our video, and let us know if there's something else you've heard about you want me to dig into next time around, or in its own little special focus video or whatever. I'll do the very best I can. And remember, a lot of 2025 update videos coming out in the very near future, including a bunch of new floor plans we've not seen before, and I can't wait to get that stuff out for you. So until then, take care, stay safe, have fun, and best wishes from Bishes, everyone.